Darren came to me with the idea of, let's do the story of Noah. You know, the first challenge that we faced was, how do we make that into a film? There's not a character arc for Noah, and there's very little insight to what the characters were thinking and feeling on the inside.
Can it not be averted?
He speaks to you. You must trust that he speaks in a way that you can understand.
Noah is such an incredibly short story in the Bible. It doesn't take up much space, and it leaves a lot to the imagination.
It's very challenging, and it should be, because the story of Noah's Ark in the Bible is much darker than the one that we tell our kids.
You know, we all focus so strongly on positive aspects of the Noah story. You know, kind of a nice, gentle guy with a long white beard who saves the animals, gets the other side, and like, yay, we did it.
It's a horrifying story about how serious human sinfulness is.
I saw water, death by water. And I saw new life.
I think the darkness of the story also helps give way for redemption and light and something beautiful that happens in the story of Noah.
The story of Noah starts with this concept of strong justice, that the wickedness of man must be met with justice. And it ends when the rainbow comes and it says, even though the heart of man is filled with wickedness, I will never again destroy the world. So it ends with this idea of mercy. So God somehow goes from this place of judging the wickedness to mercy and grace. So we decided that was a powerful and emotional arc to go through, and we decided to give that arc to Noah. Then it's occurring in a place where we can understand it as human beings and we can relate to it emotionally.
It begins.
And so they wanted to do a story that could capture our imagination, that is riveting, that draws you in, that makes you leave affected, feeling the weight of life and humanity. And this story does that.
It arrests you. The characters are gritty and realistic. I really didn't expect this sort of deep level of moral and theological reflection.
It was very important to us to do two things at the same time. One was to not do anything which contradicted the letter of the text. And the second was, wherever we could, without contradicting Genesis, we wanted to break expectations. So we went very deep.
And it really adds this beautiful depth to the whole story.
Movies aren't meant to preach. Movies aren't sermons. And so if they can bring up the topic and start conversation, that's a good movie. And this one made me ask questions.
You realize we're working with prehistory, and directors who work with prehistory are confronted with a very difficult thing that historical epics aren't, which is they have to fill in exactly what pre-modern is. He did a remarkable job of that.
I was able to be on the set, and I was literally overwhelmed with the sheer size and the look of the ark. It's primitive, it's gigantic, it's apocalyptic, if you will, and it's really an amazing design.
Any good movie has to deviate from the book. And I loved the choices that they made. I thought it was a story that could have stopped once they got on the boat, and yet it kept driving me back to wanting to go back and read Noah again.
There isn't anything for you here.
I have men at my back, and you stand alone and defy me.
I'm not alone.
This is a film that you have to have a conversation about afterwards.
Take the ark!
What this story does, in I think a great way, is invite us to take a look at the man Noah.
Noah feels impressed by God that he has to make a choice, and yet he wrestles with that tension, I think we all do, of how do we hear from God? How do we know that God's told us to do this?
It's a powerful, powerful story that really reminds us of the importance of God's call on our life.
The movie itself may change lives, may not change lives. But what we do with it, I think, makes the biggest difference.
Were they able to maintain the biblical truths of the Noah story? I would say yes, absolutely they were.
That's the end of everything.
Beginning. Beginning of everything.